Hello and welcome to another edition of the Coyote Corner video blog alongside Jay Elsen. I'm Alex Heinert talking some USD football, and Jay, for the Oats, coming off a tough 27-16 Dakota Days loss here in the Dakota Dome to a good UNI team. That was a game that South Dakota was in right from the start, but just couldn't quite find a way at the end. Assess how that team played and where they're at right now.
Yeah, it was up and down. I mean, they had some moments that were very good. Frankly, the opening drive of the game was one of the more impressive drives that I'd seen all season to this point. And then they upped the ante in the fourth quarter with a 99-yard touchdown drive. And so two of the best drives I've seen front to back all season long by this offense within a game where there were a lot of problems. And a lot of those problems were up front. Pass protection was an issue. Kevin Earl got sacked 7 times. They ran the ball for just 102 yards on the day, and 17 of that came on Trevor Bama's first quarter touchdown run. So, and Sanders had a 33, 35-yard run in the fourth quarter. So
nearly half of that yardage.
Chunks of that. Well, and of course you lose all that with the sacks to Kevin Earl, but. Just never got any kind of real consistent rhythm going that way, mostly because down and distance was not in their favor. You take those sacks and all of a sudden you're second and long or you're third and long, and that just, the probability of you converting on those plays goes down. And while they were 7 of 15 on third down, a lot of the ones that they missed were of the long variety. And so you're only going to convert so many of those. The percentages, they don't lie.
Right.
And so eventually that's if you're in that situation, it's going to come back to bite you, and it certainly did on Saturday. And then on the defensive side, I think, overall the group played pretty well. They held him to 361 yards of total offense. They held David Johnson in check. I think he had 45 yards rushing on 14 carries. That's
an All-American
really
kind of a
good
guy.
running back right there. And so an impressive job on him. They did get hurt by the running quarterback Breon Carnes a little bit. And so that I think UNI noticed that early, and they tried to capitalize on that because Carnes played more in this game than he had all season at the quarterback spot for them. So, they had some trouble containing him, but overall, from a secondary standpoint, again, I thought it was a pretty strong effort. They did get beat for a couple of deep passes, but overall, most of the time that UNI tried to stretch the field, the Coyotes were right there in coverage, running step for step with the receiver, and so that was an encouraging thing, I think, too. But certainly plenty to clean up as we go forward in the Valley.
Well, moving forward, they take on a Missouri State team coming up this coming week again in Springfield, Missouri, a team that's 3-3 right now on the year, and just like the Oats, 0-2. And for USD, they're going to have their quarterback now playing in his third game this season, but really his second game coming off an injury. Kevin Earl threw a touchdown, had a couple of picks, was on the ground a lot. How do you think he looked in his first game back?
I was encouraged by what I saw from Kevin. Basically, 17 of 30 for 260 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. So nothing earth-shattering about that. But at the same time, when you've had a month off without game repetition, and to be able to come in and, like I said, lead two of the more impressive drives we've seen out of this offense at any point this season, I think it says a lot about what the potential is for this guy. And we all know by this point what Kevin Earl can do as a quarterback, but to actually see him out there doing it again, obviously there's reason for optimism, and things to build off.
Certainly.
I think if he plays similarly, but that's not his first game back, maybe the result would have been a little bit different. And that's not putting any of the blame on the way Kevin performed. But I just think, had he had maybe another game under his belt, maybe that Northern Arizona game or maybe that Southern Illinois game, who knows? I think, just to have whatever rust there is shaken off, because he did make some mistakes, and quarterbacks are going to make those, but some of them, maybe throws that he might not have made, like the interception in the third quarter. I don't know if you can attribute it directly to the layover or the layoff or not, but it's certainly, things like that are the plays that you kind of expect to see out of a guy who hasn't seen
played football in
live
6 weeks,
action in 6 weeks. So overall, I was very encouraged. I thought, there's certainly some things to build on if they can get that running game going, if they can protect a little bit better going down. I think we've got a real chance to see what we thought this offense might be going into the season with all the weapons they had coming back.
We get to see some of those weapons again this Saturday in Springfield, Missouri. Again, this is a Bears team at 3-3, but again, their 3 losses have come to Oklahoma State and then to Youngstown State, who was number 12 at the time, and that was a 7-point contest, and they lose this past week in a wild game against South Dakota State, 32-28. So again, they're 2 conference losses by a combined 11 points. What should we expect from this Mo State team coming up this week?
Well, Kira Harris, their quarterback, is a really good athlete, and he everything, as it should, runs through him. But he's that dual threat type of guy, a guy not unlike Carnes, maybe even better, a
little more polished version.
At least as a starting quarterback is concerned. So, he's a dangerous guy. But to be honest with you, the Yotes the last 2 years have done a pretty good job against him. And now this is a different team, and so we'll see how this group handles him. But you have to draw on what you know. And the last couple of years, they've held him in check pretty well. And last year, in the win in the Dome, he didn't do much of anything. Ended up getting knocked out of that game, as a matter of fact, with a concussion. But he's back and he's playing better probably than he ever has too at this point. So you're gonna certainly have to be aware of him and everything that he can do. A lot of that zone read stuff is going to come into play, and the Coyotes have done well against that at times and struggled against that at times. And so it's just a matter of how they game plan and how they execute on Saturday against him. But it's certainly a win or a loss. A lot of it's going to be dictated on how they handle number 10.
Sure. A rare afternoon game on the road for USC. You've not had one of these this season.
I'm actually a little excited about that. I'm not going to lie to you, except for the fact that we're driving on this trip.
Right,
so
sure.
Ultimately on the backside, it's not going to feel a lot different by the time we get back. About a 9-hour trip.
Yeah.
So, first road game in the afternoon so far this year for USD, which is kind of rare. You know, the 3 night games in 1 year, and especially to start the season with 3 night games on the road. So, I think a lot of people on the USD side of things are pretty happy about that, not having to figure out a way to fill a bunch of time on the road and sit there and wait for the game and wait for the game. You get up, you have your breakfast, and you get ready to go. You go to the stadium and you play football, and maybe that's a good thing. I guess we'll wait and see. Time will tell.
And we're going to find out on Saturday. Jay will be down there at the game, as always, tweeting live from Springfield. Again, at Elsen, MidcoSN for live updates. Should be a great test for the Yotes trying to get their first win in conference this week against Missouri State. Hey, for Jay, I'm Alex. Thanks for watching again. We'll see you next time on our Coyote Corner video blog.